May I present Miss Buffy and Master Jody from Terre Haute?
I don't understand.
Neither do I, but, we carry on.
You grab the remote, and you find a talking baby cracking jokes, a sitcom literally named after its airtime, and a Julia Louis-Dreyfus show that NBC itself couldn't explain. This wasn't a fever dream. This was real. And every single one of those shows, dead, gone, canceled. Some before most people even knew they existed.
Well, these are artichoke hearts with goat cheese, and these are Greek olives.
Nope.
Very well.
Today we are digging up the sitcom graveyard of 2002. 10 shows that crashed, burned, and got buried so deep, most people forgot they ever aired. Let's go. Number 10, Family Affair Network. The WB premiered September 12th, 2002. Episodes 15 produced, 13 aired seasons.
Come on, you and Doug are dream parents. You've got the house with the yard and the dog and the school down the lane and...
We're selling the house.
Okay. Let's start at number 10 with a show that nobody asked for, on a network that probably should have known better. Family Affair. Now, if you're a certain age, you might remember the original Family Affair. It ran from 1966 to 1971 on CBS. 5 solid seasons, a loyal audience. It was a wholesome classic about a wealthy bachelor named Uncle Bill, who suddenly becomes the guardian of 3 orphan children, with the help of his very proper British butler, Mr. French. Simple, charming, and very much a product of its era. Fast forward 35 years, the WB decides to bring it back. This 2002 remake starred Gary Cole as Uncle Bill. A solid choice, honestly. Cole is a dependable actor who can do comedy, but the real centerpiece was Tim Curry as Mr. French. And here's the thing, Curry was absolutely committed to this role. The man gave 110% every single episode, chewing scenery, landing jokes, doing everything he could to make this work. The problem, the writing wasn't there. The tone was stuck somewhere between sitcom parody and low-effort family drama. The jokes felt 30 years out of date. The chemistry between the cast was just off. Nobody felt like a family. They felt like strangers reading lines. And the audience could tell the WB actually gave the show a full season order. They picked it up for the back 9 in October 2002. But ratings collapsed almost immediately. The pilot drew 4.35 million viewers. By Halloween, down to 1.88 million. That is a catastrophic drop in just a few weeks. The network reversed course fast. They cut the episode order from 22 down to just 15. Then they pulled it from the air in December 2002. The show came back briefly in early 2003, airing after Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But by March 2003, it was done. The WB officially passed on a second season in May 2003. 15 episodes were produced. Only 13 ever made it to air. Critics dismissed it as lifeless and unnecessary. And they weren't wrong. This was a reboot nobody asked for, arriving on a network that needed something fresh and delivering something that felt like it belonged in a completely different decade. The only real reason to watch Family Affair today is Tim Curry, giving it everything he had, in a role that absolutely, completely did not deserve him. Number 9, In-Laws Network, NBC. Premiered September 24th, 2002. Episodes 15 produced, 14 aired seasons, 1.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, sweetie.
Sorry we're late.
Traffic, it was a nightmare.
Oh, so you're a few minutes late? Big deal. Family dinners don't start until the whole family's here.
Where's Daddy?
He's getting seconds.
Moving to number 9, and this one actually had some real potential. In-Laws. Created by Mark Raisman and executive produced by none other than Kelsey Grammer, the man behind Frasier. In-Laws was NBC's attempt to cash in on the Meet the Parents formula that had been so successful at the box office. The setup? A newly married couple, Matt and Alex, move into Alex's childhood home to save money, and Matt's life immediately gets steamrolled by Victor Pellet, his wife's overbearing, no-nonsense ex-cop father. Hijinks ensue. The cast was genuinely strong. Dennis Farina played Victor, and if you know Dennis Farina, you know exactly what that means. The man had a presence. He played tough, intimidating, old-school authority figures like nobody else. Here he brought that same energy to a comedy role, and there were moments when it absolutely worked. His dry, deadpan intimidation was legitimately funny. Elon Gold played the nervous son-in-law, Matt. And here's an interesting fact. The show was actually based on Elon Gold's own stand-up comedy material. He literally wrote the premise from his own life experiences. Gold also served as a producer on the series. Bonnie Somerville played the peacemaker daughter Alex, and Jean Smart brought real wit and warmth to the role of Marlene, the mom trying to hold everything together. And the theme song, Make Yourself at Home, performed by a then unknown Michael Bublé. Yes, that Michael Bublé. Before the fame, before the Christmas albums, before everything, he was singing the theme song of a canceled NBC sitcom. That's a fun trivia fact right there. NBC promoted this show hard. Loud promos, heavy scheduling. They were convinced Dennis Farina was going to be the next big sitcom star. The audience had different ideas. 15 episodes were produced. NBC aired 14 of them before quietly canceling the series. The final unaired episode, Mother's Nature, never made it to broadcast. Critics were mixed to lukewarm. The show didn't break through. But honestly, for a sitcom that only lasted one season, In-Laws had more going for it than most people remember. It wasn't a disaster. It just couldn't find its footing in a crowded, competitive market. In the end, it became just another early 2000s casualty, a show that deserved a little more love than it got. Number 8, That 80s Show Network. Fox premiered January 23, 2002. Episodes 13 produced and aired seasons were number 8.
Got bad news. Sophia and I are finished.
Aw.
Yeah, I've got some bad news myself. Kids, Mother and I split up.
And this one is a fascinating case study in how not to market a television show. That 80s show, let me set the scene. By 2002, that 70s show on Fox was a genuine hit. Audiences loved it. The critics loved it. It had a killer young cast. Topher Grace, Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, the whole crew. The formula worked. Nostalgic decade setting, ensemble comedy, strong character chemistry. So Fox wanted more of that. They went back to the same creative team, the same writers, the same producers, the same behind-the-scenes talent from that 70s show and said, let's do it again. But this time, set it in the 1980s. The result was That 80s Show, created by Mark Brazil, Terry Turner, and Linda Wallum, the same people who built the That 70s Show world. It premiered on January 23, 2002, as a mid-season replacement on Fox. And here's where it gets complicated. This was not a spin-off of That 70s Show. Not technically. It had completely new characters, a completely new setting, a new tone, and a much louder, more in-your-face 1980s aesthetic. Set in 1984 San Diego, it followed a group of young people navigating careers, relationships, and the general weirdness of Reagan-era America. But the name caused enormous confusion. Viewers tuned in expecting a continuation of That 70s Show. They didn't get it. Instead, they got something that felt like a louder, broader, less grounded version of the formula. And it just didn't click. The characters weren't as lovable. The writing was broader. The humor felt forced where That 70s Show had felt natural. Fox canceled it after 13 episodes. One season. Done. And here's the silver lining that makes this show worth remembering. Glenn Howerton starred in That 80s Show. Yes, Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This was him early in his career, long before Patty's Pub. And some fans today watch That 80s Show specifically for the strange experience of watching proto-Dennis Reynolds wandering around 1984 San Diego. In that context, it becomes a lot more entertaining. That 80s Show is a perfect example of how a familiar name doesn't guarantee success, especially when the show is not actually the thing audiences think they're getting. Number 7, Baby Bob Network, CBS premiered March 18, 2002. Episodes 14 produced, 9 aired seasons, to number 7.
Walter, I need this. It has been such a huge adjustment for me, giving up my career to be with the baby full time.
And I want you to brace yourself for this one. Because this show exists. This is real. This actually aired on CBS in primetime. Baby Bob, a sitcom. About a talking baby. The premise is exactly what it sounds like. Walter and Lizzie Spencer, played by Adam Arkin and Jolie Fisher, are first-time parents who make a terrifying discovery. Their 6-month-old son, Bob, can speak like a fully grown adult. Not just speak, wisecrack, philosophize, hold full conversations. The effect was achieved through computer editing, mapping adult lip movements onto the infant actors who played Bob. The voice of Bob was provided by Ken Hudson Campbell. Supporting cast included Holland Taylor as the overbearing grandmother, Madeline and Elliot Gould as Walter's father, Sam. Now here's something fascinating. Baby Bob wasn't actually invented for the show. The character had been around since February 2000, when he starred in a series of commercials for freeinternet.com. Those ads were weird, memorable, and apparently caught the attention of someone at CBS, because in 2002 they greenlit an entire sitcom around the concept. Let that sink in. A talking baby from an internet company commercial got his own CBS primetime sitcom. The show premiered on March 18, 2002, and its first episode pulled 15.62 million viewers. That's actually not bad at all, but the numbers dropped fast. By episode 5, it was down to 10.71 million, and the critical reception was brutal. TV Guide eventually placed Baby Bob at number 14 on its list of the 50 worst TV shows of all time. Not greatest hits, worst of all time. Technically, Baby Bob ran for 2 seasons. But here's the reality. Only 9 of the 14 produced episodes ever made it to air. CBS dumped the final 3 episodes in June 2003, when absolutely nobody was paying attention. And yet, Baby Bob found a second life. The character resurfaced as a spokesperson for Quiznos in a series of commercials. Because nothing sells sandwiches like a creepy CGI talking baby. Baby Bob is a perfect time capsule of the early 2000s. A moment when networks were so desperate for the next big gimmick that they would greenlight literally anything. If it had a talking baby, apparently, it got on the air. Number 6, Bram Alice Network, CBS, premiered October 6, 2002. Episodes 9 produced, 4 aired seasons, 1 number 6.
I used to love this suit. When did it shrink on me?
I'm not sure. When did you put the mini fridge in the bedroom?
And this one genuinely hurts a little, because on paper it had everything going for it. Bram and Alice, created by Joe Keenan and Christopher Lloyd, the same Christopher Lloyd who had been a writer and producer on Frasier. This CBS sitcom premiered on October 6, 2002, and the premise was actually compelling. Alice O'Connor is a young, aspiring writer who moves to New York City to chase her literary dreams. One day she shows up at the door of Bram Shepard, a once celebrated novelist who won a Pulitzer Prize 20 years earlier for his best-selling novel. Bram had a one-night stand at Vassar College decades ago. Alice is the result. She is his daughter. He had no idea she existed. Now Bram, played by Alfred Molina, is living in faded glory. The literary fame is long gone. He hasn't written anything worthwhile in years. He's drowning in debt. He's a charming but deeply narcissistic womanizer. And suddenly he has a daughter, played by Traylor Howard, who many people know as Natalie from Monk. Alice is optimistic, idealistic, and the exact opposite of her disaster of a father. Great premise, strong lead actors, experienced creative team. James Burrows, the legendary sitcom director who had worked on Cheers, Friends, Will and Grace, directed the pilot. And then CBS canceled it after 4 episodes. 4 episodes. The show aired October 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th. And then it was gone. 5 additional episodes had been produced and never aired. Those remaining 5 episodes vanished into the vault. They didn't surface until Universal HD aired all 9 episodes in the spring of 2010, nearly 8 years after the show was canceled. The show has never been released on DVD. Bram and Alice is one of those rare cases where the cancellation feels genuinely unjust. The concept was smart, the talent was real, but CBS pulled the trigger in under a month. 4 episodes was all it got. And then, silence. Number 5, The Random Years Network. UPN premiered March 5, 2002. Episodes 7 produced, 4 aired seasons, 1 number 5.
You know, Alex, I live in New York. If I sit here, it will come.
And if you've never heard of this one, that's kind of the entire point. The Random Years. This sitcom aired on UPN, the United Paramount Network, a channel that in 2002 was not exactly known for its comedy output. Created by Michael Leesbay and Nate Rager, who based it on their own experiences living in New York City, The Random Years premiered on March 5, 2002. The show followed three childhood friends: Alex Barnes, played by Will Friedle, who many people remember as Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World, Wiseman, played by Joshua Ackerman, and Todd Mitchell, played by Sean Murray, who would later become famous as McGee on NCIS. After graduating college, the three guys move in together in a Chinatown, Manhattan apartment, an apartment they absolutely could not afford in reality, and try to navigate careers, relationships, and adulthood. So, three guys, New York City, post-college confusion, dating mishaps, bro banter, vague career dreams. If that sounds familiar, it should. By 2002, this formula had already been done, and done far better, by Friends, Living Single, Seinfeld, and about a dozen other shows. The Random Years brought nothing new to the table. Critics called it painfully formulaic, full of sitcom cliches and lacking any real identity. Basically, a knockoff with no bite. The show received the lowest ratings of any original program aired that season on network television. Alongside another UPN show called As If, The Random Years set the floor for how bad things could get. UPN canceled it after only 4 of the 7 produced episodes aired. The show ran from March 5th to March 19th, 2002. 14 days. It existed for 14 days on television before being pulled. 3 episodes were produced and simply never broadcast. The Random Years disappeared almost immediately, and it is rarely mentioned today, unless you are specifically digging through the archives of UPN's most forgettable experiments, which apparently we are. Number 4, Imagine That Network, NBC premiered January 8th, 2002. Episodes 6 produced, 2 aired seasons, 1 number 4. And this is where we get into truly extreme territory, because The Random Years only aired 4 out of 7 episodes. Imagine That aired 2 out of 6. Imagine that. Created by Seth Kurland and premiering on NBC on January 8, 2002, Imagine That starred Hank Azaria, the voice of dozens of Simpsons characters, a legitimately talented comedy actor, as Josh Miller, a successful comedy writer whose vivid Walter Mitty-like daydreams constantly interrupt his real life. The gimmick was that each episode would actually show us these surreal fantasy sequences, playing out on screen, over the top, absurdist, and visually wild. The supporting cast was equally strong. Katie Sagal, who everyone knows as Peg Bundy from Married with Children, and who would later star in Sons of Anarchy, played Barb Thompson. Joshua Malina played Josh's colleague Kenny Fleck. Jane Brooke played his wife Wendy. So, Hank Azaria, Katie Sagal, Joshua Malina, a genuinely inventive, high-concept premise, NBC behind it, and yet 2 episodes. That's all that aired. January 8th and January 15th, 2002, 1 week apart. And then the show was yanked from NBC's schedule entirely. The remaining 4 episodes were never broadcast. The problem? The show couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Was it a quirky adult comedy? A heartwarming family sitcom? A surreal sketch show? It tried to be all 3 simultaneously and became a confusing hybrid of none of them. The tone lurched. The concept felt like it needed more space and confidence than the writers could deliver in 22 minutes. NBC produced 13 episodes originally announced, but only 6 were actually completed. Only 2 ever made it to air. Viewers barely had time to register the show's existence before it disappeared. Imagine that as a genuine tragedy of network television. Incredible cast, interesting concept, and absolutely zero runway to figure itself out. Number 3, Hidden Hills, Network, NBC. Premiered September 24th, 2002. Episodes 18 produced, 13 aired seasons, 1 number 3. And this show deserves a second look because it was actually trying to do something interesting. It just couldn't quite get there. Hidden Hills. Premiering on NBC on September 24th, 2002, Hidden Hills was created by Peter Siegel and Rick Swartzlander, based on the book Surviving Suburbia. The show followed two couples living in a gated suburban community, full of gossip, absurd social dynamics, awkward PTA drama, and adult humor hiding beneath the surface of perfectly manicured lawns. Justin Lewis played Doug Barber, an average guy trying to stay sane in an insane neighborhood. Paula Marshall played his wife, Dr. Janine Barber. The supporting cast included Tamara Taylor, Kristen Bauer, Dondre Whitfield, and Christian De La Fuente. The tone was aiming for something in the neighborhood of Malcolm in the Middle, but for grown-ups. It wanted to be edgy but heartwarming, satirical but grounded. The theme song was a version of Pleasant Valley Sunday by the Monkees, performed by Mark Mothersbaugh, co-founder of Devo. Even that choice tells you something about the show's ambitions. It was trying to be clever, and it wasn't terrible. That's the honest truth. Critics called it pleasant but forgettable. One reviewer described it as a sitcom that thinks it's smarter than it actually is, which is maybe the most brutal but fair review a show can receive. The problem was positioning. Hidden Hills was stuck in an awkward middle ground, too racy for family television, but too tame and conventional to stand out in a competitive primetime landscape. 13 of the 18 produced episodes aired before NBC quietly let the show fade out in early 2003. It didn't attract buzz, it didn't build a loyal audience, and it didn't leave much of a mark. A few years later, Desperate Housewives would arrive on ABC and absolutely nail the suburban satire genre. Everything Hidden Hills was reaching for, but sharper, darker, and far more addictive. Hidden Hills was early to the party, just not ready for it. Number 2, Wednesday 9:30, 8:30 Central. Network ABC premiered March 27, 2002. Episodes 6 produced, 3 aired initially seasons, 1 number 2.
Nice try, but it's a little too obvious.
Yeah. What did he say?
I'm sure he'll tell you when the time's right.
And I need you to just take a moment to appreciate what this show was called. Wednesday 9:30, 8:30 Central. That is the actual title, not a nickname, not an ironic descriptor. The actual official on-the-air name of this television program. It premiered on ABC on March 27, 2002 at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central, naturally. And it was meant to be a wink at network television itself, a self-aware joke about how shows were marketed, promoted, and scheduled. Tongue-in-cheek, meta. A network television show poking fun at network television. Created by Peter Tolan, who had previously written for The Larry Sanders Show, one of the greatest television satires ever made, the series was a workplace comedy set inside a fictional, struggling TV network called IBS. It followed a cynical executive producer trying to keep a chaotic lineup afloat while navigating clueless executives, temperamental stars, and the constant insanity of behind-the-scenes television. Basically, 30 Rock. Before 30 Rock. 4 years before 30 Rock existed. The cast was genuinely talented. Even Sergey as the idealistic executive, David Weiss. Ed Begley Jr. as the hapless head of programming, Paul Weffler. Sherry Shepard as the token voice of reason, and John Cleese, yes, John Cleese of Monty Python fame, as the unpredictable network president, Red Lansing. The premise was smart. The creative pedigree was there. The cast was strong, and only 3 episodes aired before ABC pulled the plug. The remaining episodes were quietly burned off that summer, long after the show had already been written off. The fatal flaw? The show asked audiences to be in on the joke before they'd even met the characters. It was a meta-satire that required you to already care about the characters, and it never gave you a reason to. Viewers didn't stick around long enough to get it. Wednesday 9:30, 8:30 Central set out to spoof network dysfunction, and in doing so, it became a perfect accidental example of exactly that dysfunction. It tried to be 30 Rock and ended up being its own punchline. Number 1, Watching Ellie Network. NBC premiered February 26, 2002. Episodes 19 produced, 16 aired seasons, 2.
I'm in a huge rush. I've got to get dressed. Can you just...
Sure. When I say fix, it will be fixed.
And here we are. Number 1, Watching Ellie. This is the one that stings the most, because this one had genuine star power, genuine ambition, genuine buzz, and it still couldn't make it work. Watching Ellie premiered on NBC on February 26, 2002. And at the time, this felt like a big deal. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was making her return to primetime television. This was the woman who had just spent 9 seasons as Elaine Bennis on Seinfeld, one of the most iconic sitcom characters in television history. The Seinfeld finale had aired in 1998. 4 years later, she was back. NBC promoted it aggressively. There was buzz, there were expectations, and then there was the show itself, which was confusing. The series starred Louis-Dreyfus as Ellie Riggs, a cabaret lounge singer living in Los Angeles. And the format, the actual structure of the show, was unlike anything on primetime network television at the time. Each episode played out in real time, 22 minutes, uninterrupted, following one continuous slice of Ellie's life with no cuts in time. There was a clock in the corner of the screen during early episodes, just to hammer home the real-time concept. No laugh track, single camera, a tone that wobbled between quirky indie comedy and experimental character study. Some important facts. The show was created by Brad Hall, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's husband. Steve Carell appeared in a recurring role as Edgar. Yes, that Steve Carell, years before The Office made him a massive star. The original production company was Carsey Werner Mandebach Productions, but they dropped out due to the extremely high production costs. Louis-Dreyfus and Hall were each earning $350,000 per episode, and their contracts stipulated 15 episodes per season rather than the usual 22. The show had been pitched to ABC, CBS, Fox, and HBO before NBC picked it up. All 4 networks had passed. That should have been a warning sign. The real-time format was ahead of its time, but it didn't connect with audiences. Ratings dropped quickly after launch. After 6 episodes of Season 1, NBC pulled the show and put it on indefinite hiatus. 3 of the 13 filmed Season 1 episodes have never aired to this day. NBC tried to save it in 2003. They brought Watching Ellie back, but with a completely new format, traditional multi-camera, live studio audience, full laugh track, the whole conventional package, everything the first season had deliberately avoided. It was worse. The second incarnation lasted 6 episodes before NBC canceled it entirely. Total across both seasons, 19 episodes produced, 16 aired. The show ranked 55th in its first season, dropping to 79th in its second. The press started throwing around the phrase, the Seinfeld curse, the idea that no one from the Seinfeld cast could successfully launch a new project. Whether that was fair or not, the label stuck to Watching Ellie like a bad review. In hindsight, and this is the honest truth, Watching Ellie wasn't a bad show. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was excellent. The real-time concept was genuinely interesting. The problem was that it was a 2005 or 2006 show trapped in 2002. The single camera, no laugh track, experimental sitcom format that Watching Ellie was pioneering, that became the dominant model just a few years later, with Arrested Development, The Office, Parks and Recreation, 30 Rock. All those shows succeeded by doing more or less what Watching Ellie was trying to do. But Watching Ellie was too early, and NBC, not knowing what to do with it, made it something else entirely, which made it nothing at all. So there you have it, 10 shows, 10 failures. One absolutely chaotic year in television history. 2002 was the year the networks were desperate. They were chasing the next Friends, the next Seinfeld, the next That 70s Show, and in that desperation, they greenlit Talking Babies and confusing spin-offs and workplace satires with titles nobody could remember and real-time sitcoms that nobody could explain. Some of these shows were genuinely bad ideas. Looking at You, Baby Bob. Some were decent concepts that got strangled by bad timing, network interference, or a market that just wasn't ready. Watching Ellie, Bram Alice. Wednesday 9:30, 8:30 Central. And some were just fine. Not bad, not great, just sitcoms that couldn't find the audience before the audience stopped looking. In-Laws, Hidden Hills, That 80s Show. But here's what makes 2002 fascinating looking back. Almost every trend that would define the next decade of television was visible in these failures. The suburban satire that Hidden Hills couldn't pull off, Desperate Housewives nailed it in 2004. The real-time single-camera comedy that broke Watching Ellie. The Office did it in 2005. The TV industry self-satire that Wednesday 9:30 tried and fumbled, that became 30 Rock in 2006. The ideas weren't wrong. The timing was off. The execution wasn't there. And the networks didn't have the patience to let anything breathe. That is the sitcom graveyard of 2002. 10 shows, 10 stories, all of them buried in the same year. If you made it all the way here, thank you, genuinely. This was a deep dive, and I appreciate you sticking with it. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 shows do you actually remember? Did you watch any of them live in 2002? Were you a Watching Ellie fan? Did Baby Bob traumatize you? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you'd think. And if you want more deep dives into forgotten television, failed shows, and the weirdest moments in TV history, subscribe and hit the bell. We do this regularly. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.